Member for Coquitlam-Millardville.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, Riverview is a sprawling pastoral space of green lawns and trees. The 244-acre site located on the eastern slope of Coquitlam Mountain, overlooking the Fraser and Coquitlam rivers, is a unique and special campus with a unique and special history. In 1904, the province purchased 405 hectares for the construction of the hospital and the neighbouring Colony Farm. Located near the junction of these two rivers, it was believed that the natural setting would help in the therapeutic treatment of patients. By 1913, the first permanent ward, the Male Chronic Building, opened its doors. The new ward was quickly filled to double capacity with over 900 patients. At that time, Riverview was recognized as a model of psychiatric health care, one of the most progressive asylums in North America, and even received funding from the Rockefeller Foundation. Riverview continued to expand, and by 1956, there were over 4,300 patients housed at the site. With the development of psychiatric medications and the introduction of psychiatric units at regional hospitals, admissions to Riverview as a premier psychiatric institution began to decline. Subsequent governments recognized that with changing understanding of mental illness, that treatment models needed to change as well. Riverview was dismantled piece by piece over the next 30 years, and Riverview was finally closed in 2012. Many of the buildings, Honourable Speaker, on the site have tremendous heritage value. These buildings, along with an arboretum that has hundreds of tree species, give the grounds a park-like feel that many would like preserved. But some of these beautiful buildings, Honourable Speaker, are being demolished by neglect. The physical space known as Riverview is relatively whole, but supports and resources for those in our province living with mental illness, that space, Honourable Speaker, that space is full of holes, big gaping holes. Just as the buildings on the Riverview site are deteriorating, so are those in our province living with mental illness. Our collective neglect and lack of vision and planning has resulted in a different form of demolition by neglect. I am confident that every single member of this House, all 85 of us, has heard stories of those in our communities who have fallen through these healthcare cracks. And if someone has not yet heard a story, all they need to do is to open their eyes, because it's easy to see the fallout for not having the resources to properly support people living with mental illness in our communities. We see homelessness, we see drug addiction, we see police forces and our criminal justice system crammed with those who suffer from a range of psychiatric illnesses. We know we are using our criminal justice system instead of our healthcare system to house and care for those with mental illness. I have many stories. As a family therapist who worked in private, public, and nonprofit sectors for over 20 years, I have a long list of stories of people and of families who have struggled to find the right resource, the right treatment, the right living situation for themselves or for their loved one. So on the one hand, Honourable Speaker, we have a 244-acre site that has the capacity to be pastoral, peaceful, and healing. And on the other hand, we have thousands of British Columbians whose lives have been anything but pastoral, peaceful, and healing. So I'd like to tell the House the story about Laura. I met Laura when I was working in the nonprofit sector. Laura had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which meant that her moods would often cycle between very extreme highs and very extreme lows. She was seeing a psychiatrist on a regular basis as they sorted out her medication, and my role as her therapist was to help her adjust to life on these medications that are now flattening out her mood. It sometimes made it difficult for Laura to achieve her life goals, and I was asked to help her get back into the workforce. Unfortunately, her medications weren't working well for her, and she became overwhelmed with mania. She became convinced that she was destined to be on Oprah because she had seen the way to capitalize on one's success. She was going to write a book, travel the world, make a difference. She was going to become a hero to others, and she was going to get on Oprah and talk about it. And in her mind, she was going to get it all done by the end of the month. She stayed up for days. She wrote incoherent passages. She booked travel plans, drained her bank account, got as far as Calgary, and crashed and burned into a deep depression for months. Laura's friends saw it coming. Her family saw it coming. Her healthcare professionals saw it coming, but there was nowhere for them to turn. There was no place for Laura to go, a place where she could be safe, a place where she could stabilize, and a place to monitor her medication, to tweak it until she was stable, and then return her to her community. If there had been a place for Laura, perhaps Riverview, then perhaps she could have found stability and moved forward with her realistic life plans. Honourable Speaker, I represent the constituents of Coquitlam-Millarville. Riverview sits at the eastern border of my riding. I can, with great confidence, declare in this House that preserving Riverview as a dedicated place for mental health and wellness would be welcome in my constituency. For over 100 years, Riverview has served British Columbians living with mental illness. It has a history as a leading edge and progressive mental health institution, and yes, it has a history of some pretty barbaric treatments that we now understand to be ineffective and even harmful. Psychiatric treatments have come a long way since the 50s and 60s, and we know that we as a province need a comprehensive mental health strategy and a centre of excellence for mental health care. And the residents of Coquitlam-Millarville will welcome the reinvigoration of Riverview as a centre for mental health and wellness. Honourable Speaker, I know of no other community in this province that would open its arms to such a facility. These 244 acres on the eastern edge of my constituency present the perfect place for a centre of mental health and wellness, and I would encourage all members of this House to come out and take a look and to commit to preserving this site for health and wellness and to commit to developing a comprehensive mental health strategy so that those who are most vulnerable in our community don't have to continue on this path to despair. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Member. Member for North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government is committed to providing the best supports for people facing challenges associated with mental illness and/or substance abuse. And our government has made a priority to build a comprehensive system of mental health and substance use services across the province by making record investments totaling $1.38 billion annually. And we invest in these services because we want to ensure all British Columbians have what they need to be fully engaged in our society and economy. With regards to the Riverview lands, the province is holding a public consultation on the future. And the public, local government, First Nations and other stakeholders will have a say on the future of the entire land. Any future plans for the land will recognize and respect its key features, both its natural and built heritage, and still maintain the theme of a healing place. With regards to mental illness, as you know, Mr. Speaker, I'm the Parliamentary Secretary for Child and Youth Mental Health, as well as anti-bullying, as well as the Chair of the Select Standing Committee for Children and Youth. And because of our position in the committee, on the committee of receiving all of the reports from the representative for Children and Youth, we saw a common theme. And one of those common themes was mental illness in children or in families. So we embarked on a special project to study mental illness in youth and youth and children. And what we found is similar to what the representative had found, that most of the problems within the system are cross-ministerial. There's some problems with coordination, collaboration, and navigating the system is often fragmented, confusing, or uncoordinated. Why? Because they're cross-jurisdictional. This issue, Mr. Speaker, involves not just the provincial government, not just the Ministry of Health, not just the Ministry of Children and Family, not just justice, education, communities, but cross-jurisdictional across lots of levels of government as well as the community. And the provincial government can't do it all. But we do have a lot of good things happening. And I'd like to mention specifically the collaborative. The collaborative, or the Child and Youth Mental Health and Substance Use Collaborative, is a program, cross-ministerial program, that is funded by the Ministry of Health, as well as a partnership with MCFD and the Doctors of British Columbia. There are physicians, psychiatrists, pediatricians, folks from MCFD, health authorities, social workers, counsellors, substance use counsellors, Aboriginal services, parents, obviously, schools, school districts, school boards, school trustees, the RCMP, local police, Ministry of Education, local governments, as well as other groups that have come together and organized their services and their expertise to see what we can do with regards to improving the collaboration and the coordination of mental health services for children. And last year, I attended the first convention, which was actually in Kelowna, and then this year there was another one in Vancouver, and I was able to be part of a panel talking about all the great work that the collaborative is working on. The other issue I'd like to say that is also cross-ministerial and cross-government is just recently one of the school trustees in the North Vancouver School District proposed a motion for the BC School Trustees Association this last weekend to urge the provincial government to continue its work on interministerial planning and supports for child and youth mental health services. They did give us kudos on that, and that they asked the ministries of all these ministries that we've talked about, MCFD, Education and Health, to explore the creation of shared funding centres of excellence or lighthouse centres in the province. We're doing just that. And I can give you a very good example in my own backyard at Mountainside Secondary. Mountainside Secondary now is a primary point of contact for youth struggling with mental illness or other challenges like physical health, housing, food, employment, training, and social connectedness. It destigmatizes mental illness and destigmatizes an alternative school, and focuses on the positive perception of school and community and school connectedness. And I commend them and their work that they're doing for all children. I'd also like to make a mention that we just opened a few weeks ago the Granville Youth Health Clinic. This was a $0.75 million collaboration funded by the Ministry of Health, and mental health and addiction services are under one roof: housing, employment, education opportunities, as well as the St. Paul's Hospital Foundation and Dr. Steve Mathias, who are the ones that were co-presenting and talking about the wonderful program and collaboration that's occurring. So lots of good things happening, Mr. Speaker, and we're going to continue on. Thank you.
Thank you. Member for Coquitlam-Millardville.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I certainly appreciate the member opposite sharing her thoughts and providing examples of lots of little pieces that government is doing. But again, it speaks to me very loudly about the challenges that we have and how it is that we have come to this place where we are failing British Columbians around this mental health file. And what the member opposite demonstrated to me is how we are continuing, how this government is continuing with this siloed thinking, these little bits and pieces to provide a little bit of relief here and a little bit of relief there, Honourable Speaker. What's lacking is leadership, what's lacking is vision, and what's lacking here is a comprehensive plan about how are we going to address this very complicated, complex issue that faces so many British Columbians. Honourable Speaker, we know we are failing those with mental health challenges. We all know, and everyone in this House knows, and I believe that every single British Columbian knows, that we have failed those with mental health challenges. We know we need to develop a comprehensive plan of action. We know we have the perfect site, sitting mostly empty, waiting for an opportunity to be a place of healing once again. And I want to leave this House with one more quick story. About 15 years ago, I had a contract to work with women living with postpartum depression. I can't even imagine being in the depths of despair with this new life that you're responsible for. And she needed respite from the crying, respite from the overwhelming burden of being responsible for a new life. She needed respite from motherhood. Finding a place for her and for others like her was next to impossible. We needed to develop a safety plan for her and for her child so she wouldn't hurt herself or her child while she was changing diapers. This was not a way to care for somebody who was at her wit's end. This was not a way to support a family trying to find its way into parenthood. There was nothing. Riverview presents an opportunity for all British Columbians. A comprehensive mental health strategy is what is lacking. We need to commit to ensuring that we have a progressive, world-class mental health and wellness facility and plan, really solidly thought out. Riverview Lands represents a landscape that needs our attention. I know that every British Columbian is looking to their provincial government because there is no one else. There is only the provincial government that is able to address the gaps in services and to recognize the importance and value that the Riverview Lands brings to this issue, and to develop a comprehensive mental health strategy that recognizes all the various facets of government have a place, making sure that there is support all through our health system, our criminal justice system, our education system. There needs to be vision, there needs to be leadership, and I look forward to that day, Honourable Speaker.